Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for SAT. We have been solving SAT grammar questions out of this book here, the official SAT study guide. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problems that we are about to work on are the ones that you will find on page number 718. Please turn to it. It's 718 and today is our lesson number 26. There are 11 of these types of questions, as I always remind you when we get to this section. There are 11 of these particular type in this section, which means the first 4 or 5 are easy, the middle 4 or 5 are medium, and the last 4 or 5 are going to be hard. In other words, the ones that we see on page number 718, there are 5 of them. They are all easy questions. As we turn the page, on page 719, the first column are medium questions, and the second column will have hard questions. Let's get going. Number 1. Before we actually do number 1, let's do a couple of other examples here. Here's the first one I want to do. Before we actually do the one that appears in the book, let's do a couple of other examples. Here's the first one. It says each of the boys were given a book. Let's work on the next one. Everyone are coming. One of the teachers are sick, and one of the cars were stolen. Let's work on these. The problem here is that the very first one that we see here is that the subject of the sentence here does not agree with the form of the verb, or the other way around. The form of the verb that we see here does not agree with the subject here. The subject of this sentence, each of the boys, even though it says boys here, each of the boys, but subject of the sentence here is each. Each is singular, and therefore each of the boys was given a book. Similarly here, everyone is singular. Everyone is singular, and therefore it should be everyone is coming. One of the teachers, again, one of the teachers. The fact that it is teachers here is irrelevant. We're talking about just one of them. And one of those teachers is sick. And finally, one of the cars was stolen. Because one of the cars we're talking about. Let's do the one that we have in front of us. In number 1, we are told one of the most popular and attractive cars, were available. That's the sentence. It says one of the cars, again, the subject of the sentence is singular. We're talking about one of the cars. One of the cars was available for so little money that people thought something was wrong with it. Let's go through the answer choices. There is no point in reading A because A just repeats what is underlined. B does start out with was. It says one of the car was available for so little money that people thought something, and you have to be careful. Just because it begins with was, you cannot just automatically jump your gun and say that's the answer. You have to read the whole thing, because once in a while they change something at the end, which is what they did here. The last word that they used here, they changed was to were. It says one of the car was available for so little money that people thought something were wrong. No, something was wrong. B is not it. C says was available for so little money, people thought something has gone. No, that's not it. The answer is D. One of the car was available for so little money that people thought something was wrong with it. Number 2. The tornado ripped through the central part of the town. Alright. Tornado ripped through the town, we are told. Toppling buildings, uprooting trees, and then finally we are told, and power lines were snapped. The problem with this sentence is what we find here in number 6. It's called parallel structure. The structure of the sentence has to be consistent throughout. It says, tornado ripped through the town, toppling, buildings, uprooting, ing again, uprooting trees, and it should say snapping power lines. This is wrong. Toppling buildings, uprooting trees, and snapping power lines. Let's see what we can do here. A, B, C, D, E. A, of course, is wrong. Power lines, snapping. No. B says power lines, that's not it. The answer is C, snapping power lines. The answer is C, snapping power lines. Let's go to number 3. As I entered the Pantheon, a building that has existed in Rome since the ancient time, my brother is turning to me to whisper as I entered the building. And that's important. We need this first part here to understand, to realize that the sentence is in past tense. As I entered the building, my brother, not is turning to me, but rather my brother turned to me to whisper. As I entered the building, my brother turned to me to whisper. Let's digress for a second here. Of course, we know what digress means. We have learned this word in our vocabulary lessons long time ago. For those of you who have been watching the vocabulary lessons as well, the word digress is something that we learned in the very beginning of our vocabulary series on day number 3. Just type in SAT vocabulary words, day 3, and you will learn the word digress, which means to go off topic. To change the subject. So let's digress for a second here. Let's talk about this word Pantheon. What does it mean? Pantheon is a building. Pantheon is a building in Rome where they have these statues of Greek gods and goddesses under this one building, and it's called Pantheon. It's a building, it's a structure. What I'm asking you is, what does the word mean literally? Do you know what it means literally? Pantheon is made up of 2 parts. The prefix pan and the theo, the second part, the suffix the theo. Pan here means old. Literally, Pantheon means all gods. And the reason why it's called Pantheon is because that's where they have statues of all the gods and goddesses, Greek gods and goddesses. It's a house of all gods, is what they're trying to say here, Pantheon. Similarly, this word, if you're familiar with it, which I'm sure you are, if you're familiar with this word, pandemonium, again it has same idea. the prefix is pen here. Pandemonium is made up of two parts. The prefix pen, which means all, and the word demon comes from the word demonium. So pandemonium literally means all demons. And what would you have if you have a room full of all demons? Literally it means room full of all demons, and therefore metaphorically it has come to mean if you have room full of demons, you will have chaos. You will have an out of control situation. Pandemonium. There you go. Pan, all, demonium, demon. Pantheon, all gods. Anyway, let's carry on. We are on number 4. Pandemonium is also something I think I discussed in our vocabulary lessons, precisely for that particular reason, because of the fact that most people don't realize that it is made up of the prefix and the suffix. Maybe perhaps we haven't covered it. I thought I did. No, we never covered it because it's such a simple word. It is a simple word, and yet if you ask somebody what it means literally, very few people will actually be able to articulate it. Number 4. No one is more sorrier than me. This is wrong. No one is either more sorry, no one is more sorry, or no one is sorrier. No one is sorrier than who? Than I. No one is sorrier than I. No one is sorrier than I. Not no one is more sorrier than me. And that's answer choice B. You're not going to go around saying you are more happier than me. You are happier than I. You are happier than I. I am happy. You are happier. You're not going to go around saying me is happy. I am happy. No one is happier. No one is happier than I. Last one, number 5. Many people were alarmed by the Supreme Court ruling that gave judges the discretionary power to... It gave judges discretionary power. To have discretion over something is to have some leeway over it, to have some say over it, to have some influence over it. In economics, one hears about discretionary income. Discretionary income is something that you can spend as you wish, as opposed to some income where you have no choice. You have to spend a certain amount of income on certain things that you have to pay every month, and there is no choice in it. And then there is some leftover that you can spend as you wish, and that's called discretionary income. To have discretion over something means to have some leeway over it, to have some influence over it, to have some say over it, to have some say in it rather. It says, many people were alarmed by the Supreme Court's ruling that gave judges discretionary power to do what? Discretionary power to determine about closing trials to the public. This is very awkward. It gave judges discretionary power to do what? It gave discretionary power to determine if the trials should be closed, to the public. That's how we will fix it. It gave judges discretionary power to determine if the trials should be closed to the public. Keep your answers covered. As I always forget to remind you in the beginning, your answers throughout the entire thing should be covered with one hand. You should have a pencil in the other hand. Do not look at the answer choices until we have fixed the sentence ourselves. I forgot to remind you in the first 4 sentences. But if you've been watching the first 25 days, you know that that's what we do. You must have your answer choices covered. Now, as the answer choices are covered, this is how we fixed it. It gives this judges discretionary power to determine if the trial should be closed to public. Now we're going to lift our hand and we're going to pick one answer choice that comes closest to it. It does not mean that the correct answer will have exact same words in it, but we're going to pick something that comes closest to it. Let's go through. B, C, D, and E. B says whether he or she ought to close. No, there is no he or she ought to close. We did not say. It says if the trial should be closed to public. C says whether trial should be closed. There you go. Whether or if, same thing. If the trial should be closed to public, whether trial should be closed to public, it's the same thing. C comes very close to it. Let's look at what D says. If he or she, no, that's not it. And E says if the closing of the trial, no. The answer is C. We use the word if, in the answer choice they use the word whether. Whether, if the trials should be closed. And we don't need the articles. Because we're not talking about some particular trials. We're talking about trials in general. I was wrong. We don't need the article. If trials should be closed to the public. That was it. I'll see you tomorrow, where we'll continue and we'll do the mediums and the hard questions on the next page in a set of 11s. And then we're going to move on to the following page where we start new type of questions. Okay. Bye now.